Hey guys, Bobby Hughes here with Point Firearms, and just want to share something with you guys. This is take 3, by the way, on this video. First one, the wind was so bad I tried to do it outside, and the second one kept getting interrupted with phone calls, so I'm going to try it one more time. But I wanted to share something with you guys that I've been thinking about for the past week or so, and I've been working on something, and I wanted to share it with you guys, and maybe you get some use out of it. Maybe it'll help you. But basically, just to kind of give you a background on where I got this idea from is I've seen some videos here recently on other channels, other prepping channels and things, and it seems like the hot topic right now is being overwhelmed by prepping. And in my opinion, I think it's based on 2 main problems. One, the first problem is people prep because of fear. They're afraid that something's about to happen, and they should be. It's good to have fear. Fear keeps you focused. But they're also, if you don't know how to control the fear, if you feel like the fear is controlling you, then you make irrational decisions, and that could cause problems in prepping. And my second reason, or the second reason why I think that people are overwhelmed, is because they look at prepping as a hobby, or maybe a a second job. I don't know, but basically, prepping is, in order to be an efficient prepper and not be overwhelmed by prepping and not get caught up in the bandwagon and all that stuff. In order to be an efficient prepper, you have to have a prepper life. You have to live a prepper lifestyle, and you have to understand what prepping really is. Prepping is not a fad. It's not a hobby. It's not something new, which I've talked about before. Prepping is just being prepared and living a homesteader type lifestyle. Now, with that being said, to be a true prepper, you don't have to live out in the middle of somewhere, out in the middle of nowhere, and not have a car to drive and not have TV or internet and all that stuff. You can be an efficient prepper and still have luxuries, as long as you understand that those luxuries are secondary in the aspect of what you need to survive. Now, the biggest thing that I see with the whole prepping thing right now is people look at it as one, a way to make money, because everybody's or not a way to make money, but people are out there to get you. People will sell anything that they think they can make a buck off of. And if prepping is, people prep now because they see that, hey, our great-grandparents, they knew what they were doing. And they knew how to prepare for a worst-case scenario, even if it's not a worldwide worst-case scenario, even if it's a small local worst-case scenario. They were prepared for it. So they see that, and these people see that there's a need, there's a demand, and so they'll sell you a solution to that demand, or an item to fill that void for that demand. And that's not prepping. Prepping is not going out and buying a pallet of freeze-dried survival food, in buckets. That's not prepping. That's a hobby. That's a prepping hobby. All right. Prepping is being able to live efficiently while saving money and living a simpler lifestyle. And what happens is, where you cross the line into being overwhelmed by prepping is, like I said, you have that fear that something bad's going to happen, so you feel like you're rush to get enough stuff to last a year to try to catch up with everybody else that preps and does videos on YouTube. Or or in the mix of that, you end up taking credit cards and using your credit cards to rack up all this debt to buy all this stuff to prep with. And that's just not, that defies the whole law of prepping. Debt-free should be your goal. And prepping helps you get to that goal of being debt-free if you're not already debt-free, and it just helps save money. But getting a credit card to buy a pallet of freeze-dried food, that's the wrong answer. Don't become fearful. I mean, like I said, it's important to have fear, because fear helps you make the correct choice or the correct decisions. But don't let the fear control you. You take control of it. Granted, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen a week from now. But don't prep outside of your means. If you have, if you make $2,000 a month and you spend $1,900 on your bills for stuff that you have, satellite TV, satellite radio, car payments, insurance, electric, water, all that stuff, and you want more money to prep with, then start looking at ways to cut back on luxury items that you don't necessarily need. And that's the problem that we're in right now, is there are so many people that feel like they need all this stuff, or even, they're entitled to it. You have to realize that things like that aren't a necessity. Satellite TV, cable TV, that's not a necessity. It's a luxury. I have it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have. It's a luxury. And I've contemplated giving it up to have more money to prep with, but it's something that I enjoy. And so I've chosen not to. But in the other side of it, I don't take a credit card and go buy stuff to prep with. I use, what little bit of money is left, or what money I've set aside for prepping, to prep with. And I pay my bills and all that stuff. So you should never neglect your obligations to pay your bills. You should never neglect, spending time with your family and stuff to prep. Prepping is important, but like I said, it becomes once you get into it, it becomes a lifestyle. You start realizing that those things that you think are a necessity aren't a necessity anymore. And you start realizing, hey, if I gave up satellite TV, I could buy 50 pounds of rice a month, and or other things, and so you start to determine what's really important and what's not important, and that's kind of where I've come up with. I've used all of what I've just said to try to develop what I've been working on that I'm about to share with you guys. And like I said before, I like to plan. I like to be very organized. And what I've done is I sat down and I started thinking about prepping in general and being prepared. And I have divided prepping up into 4 categories, or 4 phases. It's more categories than phases. And one of the biggest things with prepping is to be truly prepared. You can't focus 100% of your attention on one category, or what I'm calling a category of prepping. And this is mostly for people who are new to prepping, but I'm sure even, experienced preppers will understand where I'm going with this. But you can't focus you can't put all your eggs in one basket. If you have $100 a month to spend prepping, don't spend all $100 on just food. All right? Because what happens is, if you have all this food stored up, but you don't have the other categories of prepping covered, you're not equal across the board, then you may have food, but do you have a way to sustain yourself in other regions, in other areas of life, other than just food? So, if something happens, what are you going to do? Just sit in your storage closet and eat food all day? I mean, raw food all day? You have to have other things that go with prepping. And it's important to stay equal on that. I would rather have a month's worth of supply in all 4 of my categories and be equal in all 4 categories and be sustainable for a month as to have 6 months worth of food and nothing in anything else. Because without those other things, then my food is worthless. So what I've done is I've come up with this cool little checklist thing. And it's 4 pages because we have 4 categories of prepping. And it's not necessarily a checklist. It's more divided up into blocks for priority. And of course at the top you have your #1 priority stuff. And so, and then as you complete those boxes, just put a big X through the box, and that lets you know that you've completed it. And then move down, follow the line down, and move to the next block. Complete that, and then check and mark it off. Now while you're doing this, compare your pages with each other. And if you see that you're 3/4 of the way down the page on the food category, and you're only 1 block complete on the security and defense category, then maybe back off of the food a little bit and focus some more of your attention on the security and defense category and try to catch up. Alright? That way you're equal across the board. And I'm going to share briefly with you what I've got on these papers. And then I'm going to put a link. I'm going to upload this in PDF format to my Hollow Point Shooters website so that you guys can go on there and print it out and use it if you want to. If you don't want to, then obviously you don't have to. But if you think it could be useful for you, then by all means you're welcome to use it. That's why I made it. I wanted to be a help to the prepping community in a way that I thought I could do. And with my skills in planning, I felt that this would be a good way to help out. So what I've done here is, like I said, I've divided into 4 phases, or 4 categories. The first category is food, and I'll go over these, like I said, briefly a little bit with you. The first category is food. So we've got food up here at the top, and then we have the tree branches that come out. Now if you have boxes that are side by side and it comes off of the tree, then that means those are equally important in that category. So you should try to focus on both of these simultaneously. And so, for instance, on the first tier of the food category, I say have a 3-month immediate supply. And when I say immediate supply, I mean food and water. And mostly dry goods during the 3-month supply, because your dry goods are going to last longer. And you can sustain on dry goods if you have to. And it's going to be your most affordable. So if you're new getting into prepping, you're just starting out, you can really get a lot of bang for your buck on this first block. And that's going to give you, it's a big notch in your belt for that. And then over here, we've got a long-term water supply plan. And that's one thing I want to touch on real quick. There's a difference between storage and supply. You can store gallons of water, but eventually that water is going to run out and you're going to need to refill those jugs. So you have to have a long-term water supply plan. And this could be in the form of a well or a spring or something like that, but you have to have that implemented. And so, like I said, those are equally important, so work on those simultaneously. Once you complete those, check them off, and then follow the branch down to the next block. And then it splits off and it does its own thing. Okay? So that's just a way for you to keep progress and keep you on track without, going overboard on one thing or something else. The second category that I've come up with is security and defense. Security and defense is a pretty in-depth plan, but same thing is the same thing, with this, just the same as the food. The most priority thing, or the thing that I feel is the most, should be the #1 priority, is at the top. And you can work these and just work your way down, okay? And this will also help you if you're on a budget. It'll keep you from overdoing it if you just work on one box at a time. It'll keep you from overdoing it and spending too much money. But basically for security, I come up with the 4 C's of security, which is cordon, communication, concealment, and community. And then you also have your defensive stuff over here as far as firearms, weapons, non-lethal and lethal, good defensive ideas and tactics and things like that. So good stuff there for you to go. Like I said, just to reiterate, top to bottom, all right? if you go out of order, then it's not going to work, because you're going to have things that you don't have certain things to use it with. So go in order and it'll work for you. All right, the third category that I've come up with is survival and sustainability. All right, because your initial preps are going to be your things that get you through a few days. But in order to survive or sustain for a period of time, there has to be certain things that are implemented in your plan to help you survive or sustain for that period of time. So in the survival and sustainability phase, I've got two subcategories. And those subcategories are cooking and heating, and also health and fitness. All right, obviously if we have a bunch of food and we don't have a way to cook it, then it's useless. We don't have any, no use for it whatsoever. We can feed it to the animals. But so you have to think about those things. Along with your food storage, you need to have a way prepped to cook that food. If there's no power, how are you going to cook it? You can go out in your backyard and start a fire and cook it over a campfire or whatever it might be. You got to have a way to cook it. You have to have a plan implemented. Okay, and then with health and fitness, I feel like the number one killer in a long-term survival situation or worst case scenario situation would be personal hygiene. Personal hygiene, oral hygiene, those are important, because you got to keep your body clean to keep it healthy. All right, and then it goes on to talk about first aid, medicines, personal hygiene, heat, cooking, firewood, all kinds of stuff on this survival and sustainability category. And then the last category is something that I want you guys to don't disregard it because of the title of it. And the title is redevelopment. And you might think, well, redevelopment, that's, you're talking down the line after the worst case scenario has ended and we have to build back up. But there's a lot of things in the redevelopment prepping phases that can help you even during the survive and sustainability phase, even before the redevelopment phase begins. So don't neglect the redevelopment stage. There are items on here that would be great to have even in a 3 or 4 month survival situation. Okay, and basically I just talk about repairs, tools, what the currency might be like, alternate energies to recharge batteries for communication and for flashlights or anything like that, and then talk also about mobilization for a really long term, where you might have vehicles that are no good because you don't have any gasoline to put in them or whatever. So we talk about future mobilization and stuff like that. So and basically the way I've got it set up, kind of how I explained it in the beginning, is if you took all 4 of these pages and you laid them out side by side and you're tracking your progress in your preps, the way these are intended to use is stay even across the board. Alright, so if you laid all 4 of them out in line and you see that you've got 3 blocks checked on your food phase, but you don't have any blocks checked on any of your other phases, like I said, let off of the food prep a little bit and start working on the other stuff, and it'll definitely help you out. I can't stress how important it is to be organized. It's super important to remain organized and keep up with your preps. Be sure and check your food preps. Make sure that your seals are still good. I just went through mine the other day, and that pasta that we vacuum sealed, 2 of my pastas that I lost the seal on the vacuum bag. It happens. No matter how many seals you put on that thing, it happens. All right. So check your stuff. Make sure that you're not wasting it. And use your preps. If if you're storing food and, like for instance, I lost my vacuum seal on that, I could seal it back up, but instead, you know what I did? I ate it. I just used it. I put it on my list. Next time I go to the store and they're on sale, I'll buy some more. So it's not going to hurt anything as long as you have your supply. Like I said, just stick with a plan. And if this plan doesn't work for you, then create your own plan. But the most important thing is to be organized and stay on track. Don't get overwhelmed. Take it easy. you know, do prep within your means. Like I said, like I think I don't know if I mentioned it or not. I know I mentioned it in one of the takes of this video. J00 had an awesome quote. I don't know if he came up with it or if he got it from somebody else, but I'm going to give him credit for it because I watched it on his channel. He said, "Don't live to prep, prep to live." And there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of you know, honesty in that. So anyway, guys, like I said, I'll post the link in the information below. And feel free to use it if you think it would work for you. Let me know what you think. You know, leave it in the comments below. Let me know if there's something that you think I should add to it. Like I said, I don't know everything, but I'm just trying to take my skill set and put it to good use for the better of the people. And I felt like that this is you know, I've taken a lot of information from different people, and I've kind of compiled it into one thing, and I hope you guys can really get something out of it. So until next time, guys, get out there, shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.